MedBricks webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to MedBricks. My name is Sheila, and I have an esteemed friend and colleague with me this evening. Ramana Anamaraju is not with us this evening, but I am so happy to introduce to you Cristina Spataro. Did I say that correctly?
You said that perfectly. It's pronounced exactly like it looks. Some people put way too much other syllables into it. Perfect.
Wonderful. I'm happy about that. It's such a pleasure to have you on this evening. You are a expert relationship coach, writer,
Yes.
psychotherapist,
Yes.
located out of the I think in New York, correct?
Yes, New York City, born and bred. It's where I do my therapy thing.
It's the best place to be. Good for you. And now you're doing obviously a lot of telehealth. So such a pleasure to have you on. Again, I'm Sheila, co-host with Ramana at MedBricks, and thank you for joining us tonight. I would really love to get to know a little bit more about your background, your story, and what inspired you to do what you do. If you could just take us through your background a little bit and let us get to know you a little bit better, that'd be awesome.
That's great. Well, thank you for wanting to get to know me. So basically, my background starts as simply as I've always loved helping people. That is something that I was always drawn to. If, when I was younger, before I went to college, if I was at a party or something and you wondered who in that room was going through something, they usually were the person talking to me.
Right.
I was the person, I'm on the subway or I'm on the bus, or one time I was in an airport, I'm the person that they were talking to. So then I went to college and I took my Psych 101 and other classes. And at the time I was debating whether I wanted to go into medicine, pediatrics, because I love children. But when I started taking psychology classes, I was just drawn to it. I found it fascinating. Why do we do what we do? What's up with that? And so I got my undergraduate and graduate in psychology, and then I got licensed by the state of New York as a psychotherapist. So I've been doing this about 20 years now. I've been a psychotherapist. Prior to the pandemic, I used to see everybody in person. And then a little thing like the pandemic happened and we all went into lockdown. And that's when I started working virtually. And I love it. I love working virtually. The convenience is amazing. I do not miss commuting at all. And I also find I'm able to be there for my clients more, because if a client needs an 8:00 appointment, I can do that because I don't have to worry about commuting on the train. If they need an 8 a.m., I can do that. Just let me have my coffee. So I love the flexibility of it. And it's good for my clients too, because they can see me on a coffee break or a lunch break or find a quiet corner. And so it's just been wonderful in terms of therapy. So how I got into the coaching piece was that I was dealing with a lot of trauma, people with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. And I realized that by the time they got to me, so much stuff had happened. I wanted to get to people before that happened, and I got intrigued by the idea of coaching. And then I realized at the heart of all problems is breakdowns in relationships, whether it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It also can be relationships with friends, coworkers, family. When there's a breakdown in that, everything else kind of falls as well. So this is what drew me into the idea of relationship coaching. And I started taking classes in coaching to kind of see what is the difference between that and my psychotherapy background. What I found was the difference when I did get my certification as a certified professional coach was the idea that I noticed they took a lot of principles of psychology, especially cognitive behavioral therapy and positive psychology and relational psychology, but they couldn't call it that because you're not a therapist. But I noticed a lot of the principles were being used, just, changed a little bit. So I respected that and understood that. That's how I wore the two hats. So I do have clients that will come to me strictly for coaching, and those will come to me for the psychotherapy. So usually the people that come to me for coaching, again, are people who maybe don't have a full diagnosis, but they are going through stuff and they need some help with that. And even people who don't have a diagnosis but want psychotherapy. So the cool thing is the coaching I can do outside of New York, and then the psychotherapy is strictly in New York, but I can do both in New York.
That's fabulous. And like you said, the access to having counseling has improved vastly because of the fact that people can now use telehealth. How does that work with reimbursement? Is it out of pocket, or is it that some people use their health savings accounts? How does that work?
So when I'm wearing my psychotherapy hat, insurance companies will traditionally pay for psychotherapy. So for my New York clients that are getting psychotherapy, if they have insurance, I am on panels and they will get reimbursed through that. And they can also use their health savings account. However, for coaching, that's a different animal. So that has to be out of pocket. But I do a sliding scale, a very generous sliding scale. So my role, as always, is the helper. I love to help people. It's my passion. It's my joy. It's what I love, what I do. So, my goal is if I can help you, if we can be a good fit, because it is a relationship. Not everybody can love everybody else. It is a relationship. You've got to gel with me. I've got to gel with you. But if there is a connection there and I can help you, I will always work with the client to see what can we work out that I can help you and you can get what you need.
Very nice. How has the pandemic impacted either the kinds of problems that you help people with, or in general, the type of people that come to you? Do you see a difference from now after the pandemic versus before the pandemic?
Well, keep in mind, like I said, I started my career working with people in trauma. So I pretty much have seen people at their worst. I actually started my career working with traumatized children because my licensure covers children through adults. So I technically started with children and then I began also doing adults. So now it's pretty much 50-50 adults and children that I see. I'd say before the pandemic, I dealt with depression, anxiety, PTSD. During the pandemic, I dealt with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. As we're getting towards the end of the pandemic, I'm dealing with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. I think the only real difference is that the pandemic brought to the forefront, when we were busy doing stuff, sometimes it's like, okay, how you have a coffee cup and you have it filled to a certain thing, and maybe it's kind of filled a little bit, but it's not quite spilling over. So the pandemic and all the issues that have come up, whether they're financial, whether personal, politics, whatever it is, it's like our coffee cups got topped off a lot. So now maybe people who were basically handling their stuff before said, oh my gosh, okay, this thing I kind of have been ignoring, I need to deal with it. So if anything, it's brought people who maybe hadn't sought therapy or coaching before, but who were saying, yeah, I think I got to talk to somebody because it's starting to get to me. So to that degree, I think, maybe made people more open and willing. And I have to say, one thing that I really appreciated was that, the city of New York, especially for our first responders, they recognized the mental health drain as well as the physical drain, and they actually were offering through the city some mental health services. So I actually have gotten people who were part of that, but it didn't continue, but they still got stuff going on. Because again, they were first responders in a pandemic, still got some stress. So I kind of now I'm seeing them. So I think it's made people more willing, more open to seek help, to seek support. And then honestly, between lockdown and between other things, it's put strains on relationships. So maybe couples who benefited from having 7 hours apart, when they were forced together, they thought, okay, yeah, wow, there's some stuff about you that's really annoying me. So this is how we can work through some of those communications issues. So I think to the degree, I think there is a little more depression and anxiety because of the situation, but there's also more time gave us more awareness of I can't ignore that anymore and I need to deal with it.
Yeah, it seems like everywhere you look, there is just so much mental health issues that are so many people are impacted by, that people losing jobs, people just raging in the streets, and the amount of addiction. And so what are the three things that you would say someone should do if they are in a place right now, like you said, their cup is rimming over with anxiety, with depression, with PTSD? What are the three things that they could do to at least get themselves stable enough to seek out help with someone like you?
So here's the thing. First of all, when you talk about stability, if somebody is in an unstable state to the point where, God forbid, they feel like they need to hospitalize themselves, you need to call 911. You need to get that inpatient help if it's that serious. I do offer support, but I don't offer emergency services. I do not offer 24-hour care. So if you are in that kind of unstable crisis place, then you may need to seek some sort of inpatient treatment or something. But if you are stable enough to come see me on a weekly basis and deal with what's going on, then, contact me and we will talk and we will see if we could be a good fit, good match, and come up with a therapeutic and or coaching plan to help you with what you're going through.
Excellent points. Yes. So if it's an emergency, make sure that you get help urgently.
Right.
And if you can deal with the situation, it's not an emergency, then seek counseling.
Yes.
I think your
Absolutely.
website is www.spartarocounseling.com.
.com.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes. Did it, I don't know if it showed up or not. I tried to type it in, but yes, that's me.
Yeah, it should be on our slides, and it will replay again after the show. I am also really curious about how social media and TikTok and Facebook have impacted mental health altogether. It certainly, I know, has impacted a lot of people that are almost addicted to it. But
Yes.
socially, I'm just curious about your thoughts.
So here's the problem. With anything, there's the potential for it to be used for good and for it to be used for bad. On one hand, especially when people are isolated, social media can be a wonderful tool to connect people. But with that comes the potential for people to abuse each other on social media, and that anonymity to kind of bullying, because I've worked with teams where the bullying is just horrendous. So that is the dark side of it. Also, where social media can be a problem is the comparison piece. Especially if you're not feeling good about something in your life And then you're seeing something on Facebook or you're seeing something on YouTube and you're like, I will never have that. Or like, why can't I have that? So this is where I've actually advised clients, get off social media for a little bit. Okay? Turn off notifications. Don't look at the TikTok. Don't look at that. Because the problem with social media is you're seeing a snapshot in time of that person's life. You're seeing a curated moment. Even though you will have these confessionals on TikTok and YouTube, you're still seeing a curated moment. It's like everybody knows reality TV is not reality. It's a curated reality. It's a, edited reality. And it's so important to avoid the comparison. It's too easy to look at someone else's life and feel bad about our own. But what you have to remember is, again, you're seeing one part of that person's life. You don't know what else is going on in there, just like they don't know what is going on in you. And it's important to focus on your life and what you can do that will make you happy. So this is where social media can be dicey, and you have to be careful with the comparisons.
Great advice. That is great advice, Christina. I think you're absolutely right. And as a parent of grown kids, I often wonder, what do parents do today with little ones? How would you advise parents on use of social media with their kids? I can't imagine having a 9 or 8 year old that is already starting on social media.
Mhm.
What is your advice to parents?
I think you have to have an open dialogue with your kids about it. I'm big on communication. I'm practice what I preach. I think a lot of the times what creates problems in our lives, in our relationships especially, is when we don't communicate with each other. And I think because social media, you can't ignore it. It is a part of kids' lives. I think this is where parents cannot be afraid to talk to their kids about the good, bad, and the ugly, and also hear what their kids are saying. Because when I work with young kids, I work with teens, and a big problem is that sometimes they just want to be heard and they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be made to feel bad. And there's this sort of that balance between you want to hold your kids accountable for misbehavior or maybe when they're not doing something appropriately, but also leave space for them to come to you. So I think the best thing you can do is have an honest dialogue about social media. Talk about the good and the bad and the best way to navigate it in your life. I think we also need to be careful how early we introduce technology and that we balance it out. I was on the train and I see parents handing tablets and phones to like their 2 year olds, their 3 year olds. And I get it. They look at the pretty things and it's a distraction. But you know what? I'm sorry, 2 or 3, sing to them, talk to them, play a game with them. So much development is going on in those early years. They want to see your eyes. They want to see your facial expressions. They want to mimic that. There's so much language and cognitive development happening in those early formative years. There'll be plenty of time for the electronics. Have that interaction. Let your kids value that. And if you get them into the habit of the balance, like there's a place for that technology, there's a place for screen time, but there's a place for human interaction, you're setting them up for a lifetime of healthy technology habits. So that's what you want to establish. Healthy technology habits. What does that look like? And how do we have that?
I absolutely love what you just said. There are so many times where I've gotten on a plane and I see, 18, 19 year olds who have obviously had basically a relationship with electronics more so than with people. And
Mhm.
they do not know how to interact on a plane.
Mhm.
with strangers, and even just the basics of saying hello or greeting someone, it's sort of lost on some of our teenagers. So
Mhm.
I love what you said about, good technology habits. I absolutely love it. I could go on, but I've got one other topic to introduce. If you would opine on use of medications, antidepressives,
Mhm.
etc. Uh,
Mhm.
Either any kind of therapies, and
Mhm.
also combined with medications and psychotherapy. Uh, how do you look at it if someone asked you, should I be on
Mhm.
medications for my depression or anxiety,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
even any other diagnoses, like you said? And
Mhm.
how do I balance that with counseling?
So, because I am a psychotherapist, so there's a difference between a psychotherapist, a psychologist, a counselor, and a psychiatrist. So, only psychiatrists who are medical doctors who got extra training in psychology, or nurse practitioners, people of that type, can prescribe medication. Psychotherapists, psychologists, counselors, we can do therapy with you, but we are not medical doctors, so we cannot prescribe medication. So my relationship with medication in terms of my clients is neutral. Like I said, I've been a therapist about 20 years. I've seen cases where it is extremely helpful. And then I've seen cases where it wasn't needed. And then I've seen cases where there's been medication mismanagement. So I've seen the full gamut of it. I am neutral about it. If my clients feel they want to explore the idea of medication, I will have an honest discussion with them and I will refer them to people who can prescribe. But I will say it's a consultation. Speak to that person. If they feel this is something that's beneficial, then it's something you and that professional can decide whether or not. And I also let them know you can start it if you want to, you don't have to. And then as long as it's safe to do so, if you've started it but it's not for you, when it's safe to do so, you can discontinue. So again, I've encouraged, it can go either way, because I've seen cases, for fact, on people with attention deficit disorder, some of the medication really does help with improving focus. But some people don't want to do medication, so there are tricks that we can do to help you manage your ADHD without it. But for other people, it has been a good game changer in a positive way. Same things with antidepressants and anxiety. It's both. It can be very helpful. I do feel though that whether you're on medication or not on medication, therapy is important, because medication helps take the edge off so that the therapy can work. So, for instance, if you're depressed and we're talking about tools to deal with your depression, sometimes medication can help put you in a slightly better mood so that you can actually utilize the tools. Or if you're anxious, medication maybe can take the edge off the anxiety so that you can deal with the tools. But again, I am technically neutral on it. For some of my clients, it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. And with all medications, there is the potential for side effects and other problems. And that's why I always encourage an open and honest dialogue with the person who will be prescribing medication.
That's wonderful advice as well. And I love to hear that you are sort of a neutral party, but one does not necessarily replace the other. And
Mm-hmm.
one may help you be more receptive to the therapy. So I love that advice. What would you say about adults who now, in the era of working from home,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe working from home way more than they should,
Mm-hmm.
versus when they went to the office and kind of left their work at the office, came home. What would your advice be? And do you think that's impacted relationships? Because we are now connected 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
particularly even more so after the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What would your advice, relationship advice, be to those
My
couples that are constantly working?
my relationship advice would be you need to give time to your relationship. I am very much, if you say there's a theme here, balance in your, with technology, balance with relationships, balance with all these things. So yes, I understand I have to pay bills too. We have to work, but it's about how I balance and you balance taking care of business, but taking care of the people we love. It's so important. Like like I always tell my clients, think of yourself like your life, you're this center and you have all these things that revolve around. You've got your family, you've got your work, you've got all your hobbies, your interests, your passions, who you are deep down, all of this stuff. You need to find time and set boundaries so that you can have balance in that. Because if you don't have balance and you let, like for instance, work completely take over, it will eat away at you. And you're going to feel more anxious and have other things come up because our mind and our body need to be balanced to have optimum mental health. So if you're having a hard time doing that for yourself, this is where I come in. I help teach you how to achieve that balance. But that's what I would advise. And working from home, you have to be even more ruthless about your personal time because employers will gladly let you completely give up your life to the job. They'll be fine with that. You won't be fine with that, but they will be fine with that. So yes, you're working from home, but your home and your work still need to be separate in a way. Like for instance, I have a specific place where I do my work. When I'm there, I'm working. And then when I'm not there, I am not working. I shut that off. And I also, there's a certain time of day, I'll shut off notifications. I shut off all that stuff. Work is over. So I think you need to be ruthless to that degree. Now, some people have jobs that it's harder to turn off. They're like on emergency on-call. I mean, there was a time only doctors were on emergency on-call, but now it seems like other jobs are requiring that. So God bless you people who apparently are given that. But if you can, that's where you set the boundaries and say, I work these hours. I respond to email in these hours. When those hours are over, I give to my family or I give to myself. I give to my friends. I give to those things that feed the other parts of my life.
Wonderful advice again. Thank you so much for sharing all that information, such valuable information with us this evening. And please remind us, Christine, how people can get in touch with you, how they can make an appointment with you and seek help right away if they need it. I love what you've said, and I thank you for helping people.
I thank you to Sheila for giving me this time, and anyone out there who would like either my counseling or coaching services, you can reach me at www.spatarocounseling.com. And on my site, I've tried to make it as easy as possible. You can send me an email. You can call me. You can make an appointment on the calendar. All of that, it's all clearly spelled out. And I'm also going to be offering workshops as well. And I'm going to be offering online classes soon. That's in the works. So stay tuned to the website for more details. I'm going to be updating.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much for helping so many people, for well placed help with such an important cause. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We're going to go on to the video now and watch a presentation on foreign medical graduates. So thanks again for joining me tonight, Cristina Spataro.
Thank you, Sheila. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure. Take care.
You too.
MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming.
So actually, this is a story of three women in 1883. They came to the United States to study medicine. It's a 19 and 20-year-old people, three of them. I can tell you that is their story. I'm going to explain to you who are those people are and where they came from. Life in America in 1885. So I tell you that I need to give you some kind of a background. What is life in America at that time? The Statue of Liberty is not even installed. It is just arrived. AT&T was incorporated, at the time. Wyoming white miners killed Chinese co-workers for the discriminatory problems and all those things. So racial violence. It's happened in 1885. So after that, America year 1885, transportation, there is no cars, there is no automobiles. Those are all horse buggies. You have to go from Philadelphia to New York. You have to go by horse buggy or a train probably. So there's no indoor plumbing. Women have to go outside. There's all those things. This is like India. It reminded me back in India at the time when I was growing up. So just 20 years ago, slavery, just 20 years after the slavery, that's 1885. These women came from Thomas Edison just in the prime age. He was deploying electrical lines in the Rochelle, New Jersey. Near Rochelle is very close to the Edison itself. Thomas Edison, the city of Edison. It is not that far from Thomas Edison. That's why it's named after him. Thomas Edison, that city electrical lines were first one in the United States were deploying there. My brother is an electrical engineer, and my family has a lot of electrical engineers there. So what kind of diseases in 1883 and 1885? There is same usual suspects. Cholera most of them are bacterial because they are sanitation problems. Cholera is one of them. The typhoid is all the bacterial. Malaria is one of from mosquitoes. Yellow fever, that's the only thing viral, I think. Whooping cough and tuberculosis, all bacterial infections. That's all big in 1883. So there is no NIH. There used to be National Board of Health, 1879. Just they abandoned in 1883. They closed that National Board of Health. This used to be called. So you learn a lot from history. For example, so what they do in pain medication, they use opium, morphine, and then cocaine is, people, there is a strange, cocaine is the pain medication at the time. Fever, there's antipyretics, it's like a bark, the willow bark, that's called, they used to give for the fever. Skin is a camphor. This is like old grandmother used to give all these things to you. Those are all same thing they were doing that at the time in 1883. So what is the medications available at the time? There is only Johnson & Johnson came out in Band-Aid at the time. That's a Band-Aid that came out. That's not the right one. On the left side one is the one very Band-Aid just came out. That's the only thing is, that is anti-infection. That's okay. Then can reduce the infection, stop the... So there is a first women's college of Pennsylvania started in Philadelphia downtown. That is now Dexter University campus. That is right now Drexel University campus. That is a building, 3-story big house. It looks like a big house, but 3-story. The biggest, tallest building at the time is 10-story building in Chicago, near CS Tower. 10 stories is the tallest building. This is a 3-story building. Is Women's College of Pennsylvania. It's a downtown. I've been there. I've been to that campus. Now there is nothing left. They put the Drexel University. The library is there now. You can go and visit the city. So there is 3 people came from for the study medicine in the United States. Usually they go to England, but they came to United States. When she came, she's Ananda Joshi. She's from city of Pune, India. She's near Mumbai. She came from there. She's 19 years old. She came to study in the United States to study medicine. So she enrolled in the University of the Women's College of Pennsylvania. Then, I tell you where Gandhi was not even a high school. Gandhi was not Gandhi was not Gandhi. Nobody knows. He was in high school. She came to United States. Think about that. So so there is another one, Sabat Islambuli. She came from Damascus, Syria. That she's a Jewish, Kurdish Jewish woman. She came to study medicine along with Joshi. She is a Kurdish Jewish origins in the region that, as you know, that now part of the Iraq and Turkey, and the Iran and Israel. There's a lot of Kurdish Jewish people are there. You people don't know that they have their own celebrations. They do their festivals. In fact, so there is another lady came from Kei Wakami. She's from Tokyo, Japan. She is a traditional Japanese medicine at the time. Is Campo is a Chinese traditional medicine, basically just a modified little bit. They all came in ships through the missionaries. They came through Christian missionaries. In fact, so they all three came. Life in that is a microscope. At that time, they had a microscope. So they had a life in Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania is a very interesting all woman. That is only time the woman let them go to school is because that only OBGYN, gynecology, obstetrics. So that they wanted to give their permission to that. That's why they gave it to them. That's why they did that. So they let a few women to go to school for the medical school. But the courses are very similar: anatomy, physiology, and the materia medica. They call pharmacology. They're more or less all the courses are expanded now, but basic courses are same. The sanitation is the biggest thing at that time. This bacteria, they know that existence of bacteria and the viral microbiome, micro things they know about already at that time. So all the girls are having a fun. They're playing with all the skeletons. They're not afraid of it at the time. That's funny. They were not afraid of the skeletons and bones. They had a lot of fun. So that is all the girls' school, girls' dormitory, I think. you know. So she's a Joshi was the only one. They're all moved. The Islambuli and then Japanese woman and Syrian woman. They are Christian. They converted to Christianity. Only woman who is not converted to Christianity is a Joshi. That's why she was a Hindu. She wrote about pregnant woman in India, how to get the Ayurveda, and she wrote her final thesis on Ayurveda. She did that in the Ayurveda. She wrote the complete thesis along with the allopathy English medicine. At the time, the biggest debate was C-section debate, to be or not to be. Whether you should do or not is a huge debate. Natural selection, a natural thing has to do. It is C-section. Some strong Christian religious leaders were arguing against C-sections. It was a big debate. But it was, thank God, it resolved. But C-sections were good for certain cases, certainly. But now, that you see, Ayurveda, she wrote that very interesting, as the importance of the obstetrics can be, recounted only by the value of life and the health. So it's both are paramount importance. And she wrote she's a very prolific writer for her age. Joshi was a prolific writer, and she wrote that actually in that sense. You need to give a clear understanding of these C-sections and all those things, and their life givers, women are. So we have to pay utmost importance to those kind of medicine. Ayurveda is basically herbal medicine and also different kind of plants and everything. So actually, we know now the pregnancy is a very, very heart and lungs. They do 30 to 50% work harder. There's almost the endurance test for a woman, during the pregnancy. I didn't know that as a man. We don't pay attention to it. 30 to 50% heart and lungs work harder than before. Can you believe that, guys? Think about that, guys. We think we don't know that all those things. Now we're realizing. I have 2 kids. I didn't realize it. Now I'm realizing it now after studying these things. So live births are 30% now. That is, I think C-sections are kind of overdone nowadays. But there's a disadvantage of the C-sections. Is the microbiome research is showing that when you do birth canal, the babies cannot break down the sugars. So let me go back 1 second. Babies cannot break down the sugars, so they need the microbiomes, that is, which is stay in the gut and the birth canal. So the woman, when she's giving a birth, she gives these microbiomes to the baby. So in one of the problem is the microbiomes can be wiped out from that process. That's why we see a lot of allergies. One of the complaints is that because of the C-sections, there may be a lot of these allergies and all those asthma and other things. They're saying diseases are more prone now, the babies are. So microbiome plays an important role. These are the bacteria, fungi, and viruses. They give mother gives the baby when they through the birth canal. Actually, sterile in the placenta. Inside the placenta is sterile, completely sterile. Once she comes out, she has to give those microbiomes to the baby so she can break the sugars out. That's what my understanding was. So Ananda Joshi wrote a very powerful thing. She was kind of famous. The reason was she did not convert into Christianity. So the whole America paid a lot of attention in 1885. All the American press were paying attention. They wrote books on her. They wrote articles on Philadelphia Inquirer. There is a lot of things came out in the about her because she was wearing sari and bindi and all those Indian traditional clothes. So they're all Ananda Joshi. She was a very short-lived. She was sick by the time she came down here. She stuck with the most likely tuberculosis, and she died at the age of 25. She went back to India, the Pune, city of Pune, and she died immediately. In fact, not too many months she lived. She said that all I could do, I did it. She said that actually Queen Victoria gave her from England, gave her, sent her a telegram saying that congratulating her graduation. But all of them are got MDs. Sabat Islambuli, she went back to Damascus, Syria. Then we don't have much information about her in the history, doesn't have a lot of information. She moved to Cairo, got married and moved to Cairo. Then we don't know anything about her after that. This is unfortunate that we should know. And Kai Wakami, she stayed for a while in the United States. She did some externships here in the United States in some Chicago hospital. And then after that, she moved back to Japan in Tokyo. She started a clinic, her own clinic and hospital. She is the only one who lived long enough. So she lived until the age of 90. She died in 1941, actually. Kai Wakami, that is her picture of that you see. That she was the only one lived long enough and had pictures from that time. We don't have any other history from there. These are the women they went through so much to come down here and become a doctors. That is fascinating, right? So the reason was Ananda Joshi. We have a lot of extensive literature on this 25-year-old. She didn't even practice medicine. Immediately she died at the age of 25. So actually there is a lady, it's a Boston socialite. Her name is Caroline Dahl. She is a feminist and non-fiction writer. She wrote a biography on the Ananda Joshi. She wrote Anandabai Joshi. She wrote a biography. It's available actually free. You can read it in the online. So she wrote about this 25-year-old woman. What she says in that book is that she has a prolific writer. She spoke English very well. She met her actually a few times. Caroline Dahl. She met her actually, and then she said that she spoke English very well, and she's a very powerful in expressing and writing. She was writing a very communicating excellent. She was writing letters to her and her family back in, and she's a Marathi woman. She wrote a lot of Marathi language and Marathi in Indian language, Hindu dialect. She wrote the letters back there, and I hope somebody published it. Now I don't know much about it, but she wrote a lot of letters. She communicated very well about the allopathic, the American medicine, and then practices here in healthcare practices, and then Indian medicine. She communicated back to the Ayurveda, to the American medicine medical school. Then there's Dr. Professor Sarah Ross Kapit. She wrote a thesis, finally a thesis on her PhD. She wrote Educating Women Physicians of the World in 1883 to 1911. A fascinating read. You must read it. I can send it. It is a free, available online. It is one of the, it's like a spy novel. You see that how that woman went through the things, that how they defied all the hardships, and completely, different things. At the time, Sarah's mom, Bali, she would not eat a pork, and the Hindu woman, she's a vegetarian. All these restrictions, it is a really tough. I know how they survived and became a doctors is a tribute. So, Dr. Joshi, I have a t-shirts and everything you can buy on online. That's why Anand Joshi, that's only one I have. I don't have anything else on the other woman. I will do that for you. Actually, what I was talking with Laura. Laura is talking about physician burnout. They said that she said that very interesting thing. Laura said that it is that is a patient satisfaction is a powerful weapon for the physician burnout, to reduce the physician burnout. I'm going to bring her back. Yes, there is a Mother Teresa said that is a spirituality is a made her the serve the humanity. The Mother Teresa was a medical nurse. She was a nurse actually. She was trained nurse. She got trained in nursing. She said that so they call it now. There is a name in the medical dictionary. It's called Mother Teresa effect. If you focus on spirituality, and then as Laura saying that that satisfaction towards the patients can make a difference. Let me bring Laura, and I'll ask her what she thinks about it, and then let me bring her back. And 1 second. One second, I'm playing still. Hey, Laura, welcome back.
Hi.
What do you think? It is a very, they think about women coming from other countries because to get an MD, how much pain they went through.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, it's crazy. So I didn't grow up in the US either. So I totally understand, coming to the US in a new culture around interesting new people. It's certainly an added challenge for sure. And I can't even imagine what it would have been like a couple of 100 years ago now.
100 years ago, yes. So Laura, so you're a physician entrepreneur. So what you're trying to, what are you doing nowadays? What is your venture?
Yeah, so I have a very strong mission for physician advocacy, having seen and experienced what physicians go through. So, what I do is I help match physicians with practices that will treat them well. So, I do this in a few ways. I work with physician-owned private practices, and I vet them and make sure that I really feel like they would treat their physicians well. It is very rare when I come across a practice that I feel like, it's not something I can work with if I don't feel like they'll treat their physicians well. But I work with practices that I do feel like would be a good place for a physician to work, and I go out and I help them find those doctors. It's very hard for smaller practices that don't have the giant budget and time that the large hospital systems do to find their physicians. And at the same time, the physicians are joining the big corporations that aren't treating them very well. So I help those physicians find practices as well. And, bonus, if it's one of the clients that I'm working with, one of the practices that I really feel will treat their physicians well. If a physician does want to or is interested in joining a hospital, then we work together on making sure that they really advocate for themselves in the process. And I think that's absolutely huge. I think that, if the physicians learn that we have a choice and we don't have to accept whatever we're given or sign whatever contract we're given, and, be able to look at it critically and be able to advocate for ourselves in the process, I think that a lot in the system can change.
this the 9 to 5 concept is coming down, is crumbling down. These areas of 9 to 5 concept, people are wanted to work whenever they want to work, whatever they want, whatever the times they want to work. That is going to be the future. Not only, particularly for physicians, particularly they do anyway all the times, but it is going to be more and more that people are going to have freedom. I wanted to take off next week. I want to go to the vacation to, I want to go to Mexico and have fun. They don't have that. They don't have that. So that a lot of these big corporations, they don't have that flexibility sometimes, so that you could provide that they can work anytime they want to work, before commitment, and then say, hey, I am available these times, and then I don't need to work. You can facilitate that process, right?
Potentially, what you're talking about is locum tenens. So, yeah, if there's a practice that's looking for locum tenens physicians, absolutely, I'd be able to facilitate that for sure.
You're doing a permanent placement, that you're talking about permanent placement.
I do permanence, yeah. Yeah.
Well, but let me ask you the follow-up question on that one. Is a tough one. Is that a lot of private practitioners in Texas? You have lots of private practices. In one of the challenges is that they're getting older. All the doctors, usually the younger physicians. Now I see most of the people who are coming out of the school, they're not starting their own practices. They all go straight to work for a big healthcare system. So, for example, in California, I used to live in California in the Silicon Valley. It is a Kaiser Permanente, Stanford, Palo Alto Foundation. They took over. Even in Texas, is becoming that's bigger. So, what do you think that would they continue to eventually they take over the practice? Do you suggest that, so the older doctors starting practices, that is, or you sell them, you buy and sell the practices in that direction, or just to find a placement right now?
Are you saying, do I help physicians find doctors to buy a
Yeah.
practice?
So what I'm saying is, most of the doctors who are looking for other doctors in independent practices, most of them are very older. They're not young people anymore, because they're not coming to starting their own practices. So how do you match that? Eventually, they may retire. They may take over this practice. Eventually, that is your goal.
Yeah, so it depends a lot on the practice itself. So some practices are looking for physicians to be a partner. And so in that case, what I do is I work with physicians looking to learn or be a part of the business side of medicine, because being a partner means that you kind of take on the business responsibility, and a lot of it just depends on what the practice itself would match well with. Some practices aren't looking for someone to be a partner, and in that case, someone who's looking for partnership would not be a good fit for them. So it really all depends on what the practice itself is looking for, as far as matching them with the right doctor.
How do they reach you, Laura? What is your website, and what is the name of the website?
My website is www.happydayhealth.co. And there is a contact form on there for people to contact me. Typically, I'll get back to people within a few days directly, or every now and then I'll have one of my assistants help out with that if I'm a little busy.
So do you check all the credentialing and you do all the stuff actually? Do you have any help? Are you doing the whole work, or is just matching the right people to right people? That's main focus right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do most of the work. I do have a couple assistants that help out, a few assistants that help out with a lot of the background things that I do as well. But as far as the person to person, that's all me.
Okay. But it's good. That is what entrepreneurs do. Just do the quality that you provide. Other than a bigger healthcare system, everybody's a number. What you're saying is you're paying a personal attention to all these doctors, and then see what they want. I used to place doctors. I can tell you, it is just unbelievable. They want to know where the high schools are, where the real estate is, where the houses are. I went through where the food restaurants are, where ethnic places are. It is just a challenge in itself, that you do that. Hats off to you. I did that. I went through a lot of pain on that one. Hats off to you on that one. It is a more of psychology matching then skill matching is the last small part of it. Psychology matching is the bigger part of it.
Well, I'm fortunate because they're my people. So I think the same way. It's not even, it's not tough for me because I am one of them. I mean,
Correct.
I think like that. So, if they want to know where the schools are, well, of course they do, right?
They
Like,
do.
doesn't everyone?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well, thank you so much for joining with us, Laura.
Science is real. We brought vaccines with unprecedented speed to face the present global pandemic. But it is not possible without the help of great giants of science and medicine from the past. We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. This is Jennifer, Vice President of Branding at MedBricks. Microsoft founder Bill Gates says, reading about history of science and learning about scientists of the past are an integral part of understanding and appreciating the true science.
If you want to learn science, reading the history of scientists and the story of scientists about when they were confused and what tools or insights allowed them to make the progress they make. So you have the timeline, or you have the map, or you have the branches of science and what's known and what's not known. So incremental knowledge is so much easier to maintain in a rich way than...
Talking about scientists, Marie Curie certainly is on top of the list. Despite public shaming about her affair with a colleague, she won the Nobel Prize twice. She designed the first ever medical mobile X-ray trailer called Petite Curie. It saved countless lives during World War I and subsequent wars. She was a prolific scientist and a true feminist of her time. C.V. Raman, scientist from India, and his discovery, called Raman scattering, is fast becoming an invaluable instrument of a diagnostic tool in medical imaging. His discovery is omnipresent in every area of medicine. Paul Dirac of England scribbled a mathematical equation that paved the way for present-day medical wonder called positron emission tomography. It is referred to as PET scan, which is widely used in detecting tumors and cancers with the utmost precision. History might have forgotten Dr. Yella Pragada Subbaro, but his contributions to the world of medicine is hidden everywhere. This Indian-born medical scientist created the first ever chemotherapy drug called methotrexate that saved countless children with leukemia. Now, the drug is being widely used for other types of cancers. It is also used in the treatment of ectopic pregnancies, rheumatoid arthritis, and several other conditions. He is instrumental in creating the first broad-spectrum antibiotic drug called tetracycline. Let us bring this iconic man, Dr. Yella Pragada Subbaro, who comes from a small town from the state of Andhra Pradesh, India, to the front lines of world history through Daily Wear for Medicine t-shirts. With extraordinary data analytical skills, might have been known as a lady with a lamp in the history books. She was the first woman to use population health analytics to fight infectious diseases. That is Florence Nightingale. British-born aristocrat Florence Nightingale championed the welfare of wounded British soldiers during the Crimean War. She put forward a detailed sanitation infrastructure plan for India to prevent mosquito-bitten malaria and other communicable diseases. She is a brainy mathematician who happened to be a nurse with unbounded compassion to fellow humans. We at Daily Wear for Medicine honor Florence Nightingale through this t-shirt representing every nurse and nursing student following their footsteps of the Nightingale Pledge. We at MedBricks are bringing these remarkable stories through visual art with our patented designs called Daily Wear for Medicine. T-shirts, conference bags, and other forms of merchandise are available through popular online networks. Creating visual art is one of the defining characteristics of the human species. We hope it creates awareness and reiterates confidence in the field of medicine, particularly in times of crisis we are in. We hope you join us in this journey in paying tribute to the contributions made by scientists and physicians alike. Thank you for watching. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.